All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about a couple things regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers, the quarterback changes, as well as them pursuing free agent wide receiver Tyler Boyd, who is still out there. I thought he would have signed by now, but he is still on the free agent market, and the Steelers are a team that have interest in him. So I wanted to. I know I have the quarterback stuff second here on the segment title, but I wanted to talk about that first. So their initial plan, the Steelers, was once they brought in Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett was going to sit behind him, and Russell Wilson was going to take him under his wing. Now, again, I mean, how much mentoring would Russell Wilson have done? I don't know. Well, we really won't know because then they ended up trading Kenny Pickett. But it just seems like that was never going to happen. The Steelers believed adding Russell Wilson could benefit Pickett and communicated plans for an open competition, but Pickett perceived Wilson's arrival as a deviation from the initial plan. Pickett expressed his discontent and preferred a fresh start elsewhere, leading to his trade to the Eagles, and then that eventually led to the Steelers saying, all right, well, let's go get Justin Fields for cheap, and that's what they did. So, yeah, their initial plan was have Russell Wilson mentor him if that was going to happen. Like I said, I don't know how much mentoring Russell Wilson would have done, but there was going to be an open competition. But Kenny Pickett was like, no, I want to go somewhere else. And that's what they ended up doing. And you know what? I think that is going to end up being that was the wrong move on Pickett, if that's the case, because I feel like now you're in a situation where Jalen Hurts is the starter. And the only way you're going to play is if he gets hurt. So, like, if there's no open competition there. Jalen Hurts is the starter. Now, again, we could talk about Jalen Hurts and how he turned the ball over more in 2023 and the Eagles, collapsed at the end of the season. It doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback. There's no competition. You're the backup quarterback. If he would have stayed in Pittsburgh, there was still a better pathway for you to start. It's just, you probably wouldn't start right off the bat, but if Russell Wilson goes out there and he struggles, well, you're going to get called upon. You're going to get put in because you're the only other guy. But he didn't want to do that. And again, I have questions on, if Russell Wilson was going to be a mentor to Kenny Pickett. But again, Russell Wilson, I know the last couple of seasons in Denver were rough. Well, the first season was. The second season was better. And we'll see what happens now in Pittsburgh. But Russell Wilson at one point was looked at as a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. You don't want to sit behind him and kind of, seek some guidance from him. Instead, now again, Jalen Hurts has been to a Super Bowl, but he hasn't won one. He lost to Patrick Mahomes, which, are you going to fault him for that? No, but Russell Wilson's been in the league a lot longer than Jalen Hurts, has been to 2 Super Bowls. Wouldn't you want to sit behind him and try to learn some things to better yourself? And again, on top of that, you would have a pathway to eventually maybe stepping back into the starter role. Because Russell Wilson only signed a 1-year deal for $1 million. Right? So, again, you want a fresh start. Okay, well, they traded you to a team where you're probably not going to play. Unless Jalen Hurts gets hurt. So, right now, Kenny Pickett's looking at being a backup quarterback the rest of his career. And the only game we saw Kenny Pickett play without Matt Canada, the Steelers had 400 yards of offense. And the Steelers, again, people around the league were saying, and fans, how is this team winning games? But they were finding ways to win. And Kenny Pickett, whether you like it or not, he was a part of that. And then when he got hurt, everything fell apart. Mitchell Trubisky steps in, and the Steelers started losing games. It looked like they're going to be out of the playoffs. People talking about Mike Tomlin, getting let go. But then they made the quarterback change with Mason Rudolph, and they made the playoffs. And Pickett was healthy, but they didn't go back to him. So, I mean, this is on Kenny Pickett. I think, and he's a young player. Like, I'll talk about one of the other moves that were made that were made recently, regarding a quarterback, which I'll get into in the final part of the show. But you're a young player. You're like, I deserve to start. You gotta be humbled a little bit. Yeah, again, if that's what has to happen. But I mean, again, I don't know this. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, as do you guys watching. But you kind of have to read the room a little bit. And honestly, if I was Kenny Pickett, I'd say, listen, there's a competition. Go out there and compete. And if you don't get the starting job, well, again, there's still a pathway for it. But that's not what he wanted to do. And the Steelers ended up trading him, and they ended up getting Justin Fields. And again, the Steelers, they've done some things that kind of surprised you. They pulled the plug on Kenny Pickett because they drafted him out of Pittsburgh, out of Pitt, and he was looked at as the successor to Ben Roethlisberger, but that ended up not being the case. They pulled the plug on him. They traded him. They got a whole new quarterback room, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. That's your quarterback room going into 2024. So, yeah, definitely a mistake on Pickett's part. I think you sit behind Russell Wilson, you let him start, and you know what? You try to learn from a Hall of Famer. Well, he's got to try to work his way back to being I mean, is Russell Wilson still a Hall of Famer? Maybe that's something we'll have to debate at some point. But learn from a guy that's, been to a couple Super Bowls, that's won one, and then try to get yourself better. Because, yeah, Kenny Pickett, I guess he thought like, oh, this is my job. No, you got to earn it now. Because you have some question marks. But he guess he didn't see that. So, but yeah, that was the Steelers' initial plan, was have Pickett learn under Russell Wilson, which I think we all figured, but that just ended up not happening. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Tyler Boyd. So the Steelers are interested in signing him. They brought in some receivers. They brought in Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins. They also, because of the new kickoff rules, they did sign Cordero Patterson, who is one of the better kickoff returners. So that was a smart move there. I think it was on like a 2-year deal. But, they traded away Deontay Johnson. They're probably going to draft a receiver. But they do have interest in Tyler Boyd, who could be a nice number 2 alongside George Pickens. The Steelers supposedly have made an initial offer to Boyd, and they are sticking with it. So we'll see, what happens there. But, for Tyler Boyd, you're staying in the division. The Steelers, I think, are going to be, a decent team for 2024. If Russell Wilson can maybe turn back the clock, this team could be, a sleeper team going into 2024. Even though, again, they play in a loaded division, and the conference is, we know. But I think that'd be a good spot for him. To pair him up with George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth, a nice duo of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. It's it'll be a good spot for him, especially a good defense as well. That would be a good spot for him. And Tyler Boyd's been a decent receiver throughout his career, and the Bengals have gone through some changes over the course of his career. But you know what? He's still been a productive receiver. And, the Bengals, with some of the things going on there, they got to pay Jamar Chase. Could they trade T. Higgins? I mean, if you end up losing Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, it's, again, I've said this, it's going to hurt. Um, Tyler Boyd had 1,000-yard receiving seasons in back-to-back years in 2018 and 2019. Had over 800 yards receiving, 841 in 2020, 828 in 2021. But 2022 and 2023, receiving yards, yeah, since 2019, receiving yards have gone down. Now, again, that has a lot to do with them drafting T. Higgins, them drafting Jamar Chase. That takes away from Tyler Boyd. He only had 2 touchdowns in 2023, 5 in 2022. Let's see how many games he played in. So, played in 17 games in 2023, 2022 and 2021 he played in 16, 15 in 2020, 16 in 2019. Again, the lowest amount of games he's played in a season is 10. That's back in 2017. Other than that, he's been relatively healthy his whole career. But again, like I said, when you draft a T. Higgins and you draft a Jamar Chase, yeah, that's going to take away some targets from you. And that's exactly what happened. So I think he prefers to probably go elsewhere. Oh, and he actually went to Pitt. I did not know that. Oh, so see, Kenny Pickett could have stayed, and if they got Boyd, well, there's a receiver. You could have formed a nice Pitt connection in Pittsburgh, but that ended up not being the case. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I think whoever gets Tyler Boyd, I think that's a good signing. But we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening there. He's still one of the top free agent receivers left, or just free agents in general. So we'll see if the Steelers end up getting him, because they have a need at receiver, and they could address it through the draft, which is something they've done in the past. So I could see that. But maybe they go out and they add a Tyler Boyd. And then, like I said, they've added a pair of, veteran receivers. I mean, I don't really look at Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson as veterans, but that's what they are. See, like for me with veteran, I feel like you have to be in the league for a long time. Like Van Jefferson's been in the league since what, 2021, 2020? I mean, I guess, this is going to be his 5th season now. So, okay, I guess, Quez Watkins, I don't even know how long Quez Watkins has been in the league, honestly. Cordero Patterson is a veteran. I mean, he's been in the league for 10 plus years. I think this will be like, what, his 11th season? Because what was his rookie season? I think was 2013, 2012, 2013, around that. Yeah, let's take a quick look. But I like that signing because, again, with the kickoff rules, that was a decent signing for the Steelers. So Cordero Patterson, 33 years old now. So his rookie season, I think, was 2013. Yeah, it was 2013. Yep. So there you have it. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Tyler Boyd stuff, where he indeed ends up going. So before I go into our next break, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about some of the revenge games for 2024, and we'll discuss them, give you my thoughts on them when we come back. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.